presentation.
Part of the long presentation that I show in colleges and high schools when I go for anti-tobacco campaigns for students to deter them from starting to use tobacco and smoking. So this is actually a small proportion of those big presentations. So this slide shows you that when you chew or smoke tobacco, you can get oral cancer, lung cancer. Apart from cancers, bad breath, yellow teeth, you can age faster, impotence for men and infertility for women. So this is not, tobacco is not just cancer, but it is also, it will spoil your quality of life. Next one. Now tobacco in a cigarette can have so many poisons, and these are the poisons that every cigarette will have. Acetone, mercury, lead, nicotine, cadmium, carbon monoxide, DDT, formaldehyde, phenol, arsenic, urethane and hydrogen cyanide. Cyanide is a very powerful poison. Because it is in small amounts, it goes on poisoning the body. If you see there, DDT is actually a pesticide which we use for spraying, and it is a confirmed poison in many people. If you smoke one packet of cigarette a day, in 5 years you would have spent 36,500 rupees on smoking alone, even if you are smoking one pack a day. If you are smoking 10 packs a day, in about 20 years you would have spent 14 lakh rupees on smoking alone, which is enough to buy you a small apartment. So this is the cost of smoking. Not only she is damaging herself, but she is damaging the baby in her womb. So the baby who is going to be born is also born with defects, and not only that, they will suffer for life. Next. Now what is passive smoking? It is, suppose you are sitting in front of a smoker and you are smoking the breath that is exhaled, which is left out after smoking. That is called passive smoking. Actually, passive smoking has more powerful carcinogens. So a person who is constantly passive smoking, for example, the wife and children of a smoker in the house, they are passive smokers. They are actually more at risk than the active smoker, because this is a very dangerous proposition also. That is why, next one, we have now legislation where you have public notices saying that you cannot smoke in public. And there is a legislation in India, this is a copy of that. Create an awareness and stop him from smoking. The policeman need not come and do it. So that has to come from the social activity. Next. Now there are special smoking arenas like this. This is actually a picture taken in California. Even there, even if this is in a park, this is a public park where even in a big park, you cannot smoke wherever you want. There is a designated area there where you have to come and smoke, so that other people in the park are not affected. So already the awareness is there all over the world, but only problem is we are still continuing to smoke. Next. Now 70 crore children in the world breathe air polluted by tobacco smoke, which means that so many children are affected in the house, in their own homes, because one of their parents is smoking, or a brother is smoking, somebody is smoking in the house. So the hyperactivity disorder, where you must have seen Tare Zameen Par film, that is shown on a life of a child who suffers from such a disorder. So such disorders are seen in children if they have the passive smoke. That is an expression of a tumor sitting in the lung, and this is the common lung cancer that you see in a young smoker. This man must be around 25 to 28 years old. And he is already starting to lose his life. Of 2010, that is almost 2 years back. And what is happening is the developed world has developed its own statistics, its own laws, and the smoking in the developed world actually has come down. But in the developing countries, US, where because of a heart problem, the next line is cancer. So people who are dying of heart disease are 31%, and 23% of people who died in US in that year were all dying because of cancer. So cancer has become almost as equal to heart diseases in causing death. And if you see these cancers in women, the breast cancer incidence in women actually has come down, the grey line on the top. About 10 paisa generally goes in healthcare for his health needs. But if the person has cancer, 90% of his, that is 90 paisa of that rupee will go into health needs, which is a big economic burden for him. So here, if you see the economic loss from death in billions, cancer is the maximum, which means that cancer is a very expensive disease to treat. Now this is a very interesting statistic. If you see in 1960, one country, which is a very small country, Finland, had the first legislation to ban public smoking. That was in 1960-61. They were the first people to stop smoking in public. And you see, after that, the incidence has come down. The green line, the incidence of cancers in males have come down drastically because people smoke less and less. You take another country which is neighboring to Finland, which had no legislation like that. Everybody was smoking. The yellow line, the incidence went on going up. Which means that if you have a good legislation, if you have a good public awareness, you can bring down the use of tobacco and bring down the incidence of lung cancer. And that is why we are trying to do something on World Tobacco Day, and that is why we are all here. Next. I'll show you another problem that is facing India. Apart, the rest of the world doesn't really use gutka, but Indians use a lot of gutka. Unfortunately, gutka is taken by even children. Next. I'll show you some of my patients' pictures. This is a young man, you can see, about 20 to 21 years of age with that cancer on the tongue. He has been a user of gutka for less than a year, and now is going to suffer throughout his life and probably die of it. Next. This is another lady coming from the coastal area where they have the reverse chutta smoking, where they use the chutta lighted end inside the mouth and smoke. And because of that heat and the carcinogens generated from the chutta, that palate of the top of the mouth has got cancer and it has actually eroded and formed the hole. Next. This is another lady who has been using oral tobacco in the form of zarda. She keeps inside the mouth throughout the day, that zarda. And that has caused all these are all cancer lesions that you see, that small granules. So this is how young and old, both people are suffering because of tobacco, and which is totally preventable. Next. Another problem that we face, especially in Hyderabad, is this hookah and shisha. All of them have equally bad properties because they all use tobacco basically. So people who feel that these are safer than smoking, they are wrong. This is actually as bad as smoking itself. Next. So what we do is, to stop smoking and tobacco use, we should have not only social, legislative, but also we should have a good information given to especially young people who should not start. Next one. Now if you stop any time using tobacco, it will start giving you benefits. Here you see 20 minutes after stopping, your blood pressure will come to normal. 8 hours later, your carbon monoxide will go down in the blood. 48 hours later, the nerve endings which get damaged in tobacco use will be repaired. 1 to 9 months, your cough, sinus congestion and the lungs will improve after stopping the smoking. And 5 years, the stroke risk, the paralysis and the heart attack risk will go down. 10 years, your lung cancer risk will go down. Suppose you have been a smoker for about 5 to 8 years, you stop today, after 10 years after stopping, your risk will be as good as a non-smoker. So it means that there is no time which is late for stopping to smoke. You can decide stopping to smoke today, you will start getting the benefit from tomorrow. So all smokers, irrespective of how much they have been smoking and how long they have been smoking, if you stop smoking today, the benefit starts immediately, and even a person who has smoked for 20-25 years will still benefit by stopping to smoke today, because it is never too late. Next. Now, the government has put up warnings on the packs of cigarettes and also put up pictures like I showed you from my own patients. The similar pictures are now being put on the cigarette packs. But the irony of situation is, person buys the pack and then sees the warning. He buys the pack, anyway uses it, ignores the warning. So the message has to go to the starter who should not start to smoke, because after you start to smoke, then it's difficult to stop unless you are fully motivated. Now, how to stop also has to be told to people who are already smoking. Next. If you are a brave person, you can have a good will. You stop it. You say from tomorrow I am not going to use tobacco. I am not going to smoke. You can just throw off your pack and remain smoke free. If you are a brave person. Suppose next. If you are not so brave, what you should do is you should bring down the numbers of smoking. The urge to smoke has to be brought down, and you should stop buying the packs. What we generally do is ask the person, if he is not able to leave suddenly, is not to buy a pack, but buy one cigarette at a time. So every time he wants to smoke, he has to go and buy the cigarette. So that also brings down the urge to smoke. So this is how we counsel people to stop smoking. Next. Suppose even this also doesn't work, then we put them to professional counseling. There are a lot of NGOs and professional counselors, psychologists and centers where they counsel how to stop on a personal basis depending on the person's own psyche. Next. So you should always take help, accept help, call for help if you want to stop smoking and you are not able to do it. Next. And people who are not able to do it by counseling, then you have nicotine chewing gums, nicotine patches, where the addiction potential will be brought down slowly by the doctor, and slowly they are able to stop smoking within 8 to 9 weeks. Even the cigarette packets will carry this message: smoking is highly addictive, don't start. So this is the final message that we want to give to students: don't start. That is the best thing to do instead of getting into the trap and getting into more health problems and difficulty of living. So stopping initiation is better than starting cessation, which means that if you don't start, it is easier. Once you start, it is difficult to stop. So it is better not to start at all. So our idea is just say no.